Prime Minister says the whole country stands with Liverpool after the horrifying scenes yesterday saw 4 children among those injured. And we're joined now by the Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipson.
We are, yes. Bridget Phillipson, thank you for joining us. It's an absolutely dreadful morning after what should have been a day of pure celebration for Liverpool fans in the city of Liverpool yesterday. What sort of questions are being asked at this stage amongst government and local officials?
As you say, this should have been a day of amazing joy and celebration, and the Prime Minister speaks for all of us when he says that we stand behind Liverpool, all of those affected at this terrible time. And I just want to put on record my praise for our amazing emergency services who responded so quickly, so rapidly, with such amazing bravery and courage, and to the people of Liverpool who are pulling together. As you'll appreciate, at this time, the police now must carry out their investigation. They have our full support in doing so, and I think our thoughts are all with all of those who've been affected by this terrible, terrible event.
And I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right. It is now for the police to investigate that, and clearly there's not much more that we can discuss. We're not speculating here on the programme. So therefore, I'll take you into your area of expertise this morning, because you want to talk about apprenticeships and skills, presumably because in a government effort to cut down on cheap labour from abroad and reduce net migration, you are now involved in a massive effort to make sure that we have the skills that are needed here to do jobs we might have expected others to do.
Absolutely, and this is great news for young people across our country, because we're investing in skills, we're investing in our young people to make sure that they have the chance to get on in fantastic careers like construction. I'm speaking to you today from an independent training provider in Sunderland that do amazing work to support young people, and I've met with construction apprentices who in bricklaying who have told me the life-changing impact that it's had. So hopeful and optimistic about the future, but we need more of that. We need more opportunities for our young people, especially those who might find it that bit harder to get onto a full apprenticeship. So what I'm setting out today is more foundation apprenticeships in areas like construction and engineering, so that young people at the earliest possible point in their career can get on, build fantastic careers, and also build all of the homes that we know that families across the country want to see, and that we as a government are determined to deliver.
OK.
The Reform leader, Nigel Farage, is making a speech today seeking to win over Labour voters to his Reform party. He's saying that he's going to abolish the 2-child cap on tax credits, which would mean £3.5 billion for poor families. He's going to have a transferable tax allowance to give more tax help for families. Is it responsible for him to come along with these promises without saying how he's going to pay for them in his speech?
No, it's not responsible, and they're not serious people, and Nigel Farage is not someone who's on the side of working people. We've recently been putting legislation through Parliament that will give working people more rights at work, for example, better access to sick pay. Reform opposed that, and they've opposed so many of the plans that we've set out. They also have some pretty dodgy views where it comes to the NHS. They don't back the NHS in its current form. They would dismantle it. Whereas this Labour government is investing in our NHS and making sure that people can get access to treatment much more quickly.
The problem is, Bridget Phillipson, last Wednesday, at Prime Minister's Questions, the Prime Minister, out of the blue, pledged to abolish the scrapping of the winter fuel allowance, to restore it. That would cost £1.5 billion. He gave no indication at all as to where the money's going to come from for that. If it's irresponsible for Nigel Farage to make uncosted commitments like that, why is it not irresponsible for the Prime Minister to do exactly the same thing at PMQs?
What the Prime Minister Keir Starmer said is that we want more pensioners to be able to access the winter fuel allowance. But I think what your viewers would recognise is that it wouldn't be right. Well, it wouldn't be right for millionaires, for example, to continue to receive the winter fuel allowance, something that Nigel Farage seems to think is absolutely fine. So we will set out all of this in the usual way, but we will make sure we've got a clear plan behind it in terms of how we fund it, and that is done through a fiscal event. So it will happen. We know it needs to happen. But, you know, you also look at what reforms have to say around our attitude towards
PMQ
Russia.
saying that is different from Nigel Farage saying that in a speech. It's both examples of politicians making promises to our viewers without saying where the money's going to come from. If it's irresponsible, as you said, for Nigel Farage, why shouldn't Keir Starmer be held to the same standard? He should tell us where the money's going to come from to pay for restoring the winter fuel allowance.
So what Keir Starmer wanted to do at Prime Minister's questions was to demonstrate the direction this government will be taking around the winter fuel allowance. But as I've just said, we won't be reintroducing it for millionaires. We don't think that will be right or fair. But there are other areas. So, for example, Reform have said that they want to bring back tax breaks for private schools. I think that's absolutely extraordinary if they're on the side of working people. We've ended the tax breaks that private schools enjoy to invest in new free breakfast clubs, the first 750 of which are already opening across our country, have already opened to families. That will make a really big difference to working families. So if they don't want to do that, if they want to bring back tax breaks for private schools, they're going to have to close a lot of those free breakfast clubs that are going to make a big difference. They're just not serious, it's not credible, and they are not on the side of working people. And actually, they're not on the side of Britain either. They have consistently, Farage has consistently backed Putin and the Russian approach at a time when our national security is of the utmost importance.
The problem is the newspapers on Sunday said that Keir Starmer and you want to spend £3.5 billion to abolish the child benefit cap, the two-child limit. I mean, sounds to me like you and Nigel Farage are on the same page.
We couldn't be further away from being on the same page, I can tell you.
So do you not agree with getting rid of...
Labour government is...
So you don't agree with his proposal to get rid of the cap on child payments? You would keep it?
I will answer that directly. What I mean when I say we're very, very different people is that I grew up in Sunderland, where I'm speaking to you today. I know what it's like for working people who have to struggle. Nigel Farage hasn't got the first clue about what it means to have to struggle in life. But where it comes to child poverty, we are determined as a government to bring those numbers down. That's what Labour governments always do. It's what we're about, because we don't think it's right that the life chances of children are held back by virtue of child poverty. It's a scar on our society. It damages us all. We're all poorer as a result of it. It's why I'm co-chairing the Child Poverty Task Force with the Work and Pensions
universal credit and child tax credit. Are you going to axe that cap?
It's not off the table. We're looking at all levers, including the social security system, to bring down child poverty. But we haven't waited around to act. It's why we've introduced new free breakfast clubs.
It's £3.5 billion. Where would you find the money to do that?
Sure. That's why it's tough. It's not straightforward. And we all know that the public finances were left in a terrible position when we formed the government last July. It's why we want to do this fully, thoroughly and seriously as part of the strategy that we'll set out in the autumn. But nothing's off the table, and social security is an important part of how we can lift children out of poverty, but it's not the only way. And it's why we're expanding childcare so that parents can work more hours, get back into work and have more money in their pockets. It's why we've increased the minimum wage to put more money back into parents' pockets.
Before we let you go, this money has to come from somewhere. You've already said if Reform are going to make these promises, the money has to come from somewhere. Are you planning on putting up taxes?
Look, those are all matters for the Chancellor. They would be dealt with at a fiscal event in the usual way. But we want to make sure that we've got a system, a society where we've got growth in our economy in a much bigger way. It's why what I'm setting out today around skills is a critical part of how we'll get our economy moving. If we've got more people in work, more people doing skilled work like construction, that will make a big difference to the public finances as well.
OK. Thank you very much indeed, Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipson.